The WNBA is in full-on panic mode, and this time it's not just because of an injury, it's because the fans are threatening to take matters into their own hands after Sophie Cunningham's brutal injury caused by what many are calling a target assault from Bria. Hartley fans aren't just upset they're done being patient. They've seen the missed calls, they watched the hits, they've heard the league's silence, and now they want a lawsuit not just against Bria Hartley, against the WNBA itself. If you're here for the real story and not to filter version, subscribe, and if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Yes, you heard that right. Fans are now calling on Sophie Cunningham to sue the entire league for negligence, and the momentum behind his movement, it's growing by the hour, because to them Sophie's injury wasn't as an accident, it was a final straw and a pattern of unchecked violence. Lazy officiating and institutional indifference. The fact that it took this long for someone to say, hey, maybe players should have to risk career-ending injuries just to play a regular season game is mind-blowing. Let's rewind the tape. Sophie Cunningham, one of the toughest, loudest, most hard-nosed players in league, goes down after an off-ball collision with Bria Hartley, a player with a long and well-documented history of dirty fouls. We're talking elbows, shows, late hits, and the kind of physicality that has nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with dominance and intimidation. But this time it went too far. Sophie didn't just take a hit, she was flattened, and result season-ending injury, broken ribs, torn cartilage out. And what do the refs do? Nothing. No flagrant, no ejection, no review, just play on. The crowd booing, the broadcast confused, Twitter on fire, and the league crickets. That silence is what lit the match, because fans have been biting their tongues all season. They watched Caitlin Clark get hammered on drives with no cause. They watched Angel Reese get hacked on basket like she was trying to escape or right. They've seen players take elbow after elbow, and all they get is a polite handshake. It's in a court, in a let the girls play shrug. Well, guess what the girls are playing? They're playing through broken bones, concussions, strained muscles, and now they're playing through legal minefield, because fans are dumb, pretending that this is as part of the game. The WNBA has been leaning hard into this toughness narrative lately. The whole we're gritty, we're physical, we're not your little sister's basketball league. Cool love, every you at what cost? If toughness means letting players assad each other while the refs of tea and scroll Instagram courtside, it's not a brand, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And Sophie Cunningham, she might just be the one to light that fuse. Let's be honest. If anyone is gonna be the catalyst for this kind of legal action, it's Sophie. She's not a shrinking violet. She's not someone who's gonna cry behind the scenes and let the league writer a check under the table to stay quiet. She's a competitor, a vocal one, and her silence right now, it's loud. Fans are interpreting that silence as calculation. She's watching, waiting, listening. And if she decides to take legal action, she won't be standing alone, because fans are already organizing petitions, are being signed, clips of being edited, entire Reddit threads are dedicated to documenting every single danger zit in the WNBA this season. And let me tell you, the footage is damning. We're talking of, for real, have missed calls, blatant hits, body checks, jersey pulls, and collision that look more like NFL tackles than basketball defense. It's not just an issue with Bria Hartley, it's a league-wide pattern. And the refs are a whole separate saga. Some fans start referring to WNBA refereeing as a performance art piece about confusion. Are jokes actual jokes about refs being paid and concession stand coupons? It's that bad. We've seen refs call a technical on a player for celebrating a three and then ignore an elbow to the throat on the next play. That inconsistency isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. Or create an environment where nobody knows what'll out anymore. So some players start testing limits, and some players like Bria Hartley stop recognizing limits at all. And Sophie got taken out in the refs just let the game go on like it was nothing. The message was loud and clear: we don't care. And now the fans are sending a message right back that will make you care. The lawsuit conversation isn't just about revenge, it's about forcing the lead to act, because clearly kindness, patience, and reason have worked. What fans want is very simple: better officiating, not perfect, just baseline competent, clear rules around flagrant and dangerous play, not enter, but of dance with whistles, real suspension for repeat offenders, not a one-game slap on the wrist. 3 days after trending #league leadership, the steps up and players hurt, not leadership, the hide behind vague statements, and we're looking into it emails. And speaking of leadership, whereas Commissioner Cathy Engelbert in all this, why hasn't she addressed the Sophie Cunningham injury directly? Wires and have been a town hall, a public forum, even just a 60-second video message to fans saying, "We hear you, we care, and we're going to fix it." Because right now it feels like she's hiding behind media teams and PR walls while fans do the work. He should be doing sound and alarm, demanding accountability and pushing the lead into a better future. It shouldn't take a player being hospitalized lead to realize it has a problem. And it sure as ocean take a lawsuit to get that same league to admit they were wrong. But here we are now. Let's not pretend Sophie filing a lawsuit would be easy. She'd be going up against the lead she plays and the bosses who cut or check the brand that claims to empower. There's risk, there's politics, there's backlash. But you know what else? There is precedent. Because if Sophie does file and she wins, it changes everything. It means future players don't have to suffer in silence. It means refs and leagues know there are real consequences for their inaction. It means player safety becomes more than a buzzword in press kit. It becomes the legal standard, and there'll be a legacy far bigger than any game. The ball is in the WNBA court. They can act now before Sophie makes the next move, where they can brace for a legal storm that could reshape the lead from top to bottom. Fans are ready. They've seen enough, and for the first time in a long time, they're not just watching, they're demanding justice, and they're not going anywhere. And here's what no one in the league office wants to admit: the fans are organizing faster than the WNBA can respond. They're angry, yes, but more importantly, they're strategic. We're talking thread timelines are cause of missed calls, flag plays on punish. It's clips of Sophie Cunningham taking body checks side by side, Bria Hartley pen of aggression. Clear as day right there on video. They're building a case, not just for Sophie's injury, but for the entire culture of negligence that's been festering in the league. And honestly, it's airtight, because this isn't just about Bria Hartley anymore. It's about what's been allowed to happen. It's about how the WNBA has good toughness and passion while quietly allowing violence go unchecked. About how the league knows certain players a reputation for dangerous play and has nothing until a camera catches in 4K and the fans dark trending hashtags. What happens on the most passionate fan base in sports turns on a very let a build up or see. Right now you got fans writing open letters to Cathy Engelbert, seeing sport attorneys, former players, and journalists. You got merged being made with slogans like "Protect our players," and not just part of a game. You got WNBA highlight reels being refrained and not as hype mantises, but as evidence exists. Habits and all the league and do tweet final score Fever 78 Sun 74. The disconnect is brutal. Let's talk about that leadership vacuum again. Because away Commissioner Engelbert, the league office, or avoiding the storm, isn't just cowardly, it's offensive. You built your brand around women who speak up. You build a culture on activism, on accountability, on empowerment. So when one of your own is injured brutally on national television, why are you suddenly silent? Where's the commissioner who stood at the WNBA draft and gave inspiring speeches about protecting the future of the game, whereas the accountability when its future is sitting on the bench, bruised and broken? Because your referees can't be bothered to make a call at this point. Fans aren't just disappointed, they feel betrayed. And the biggest betrayal of all, the league is more afraid of admitting fault than it is of losing the audience, because make no mistake, that's all really happening. The viewership dip following Caitlin Clark's injury was already a red flag. Sophie Cunningham's absence another blow. But this legal threat is mounting backlash. Does family push for justice? This is critical. If Sophie files a lawsuit, and let's be honest, she has every. Listen to the headlines. Won't be WNBA player sues Dobby. When there'll be WNBA refuses to protect its players. League negligence leads to lawsuit. Fans turn on WNBA leadership over safety scandal. That's the kind of press you don't recover from, and you can't spin it. You can't hide behind hashtags and highlight reels. You can't bury in a Friday afternoon news dump. Once that lawsuit, it's court. Every missed call, every unpunished hit, every injury brushed aside by toughness culture becomes evidence. And here's the kicker: players are starting to support the movement. Quietly, yes. But increasingly, some have post calling out the league. Others have made vague but very pointed statements about player safety. A few have even aired fan-made graphics demanding justice for Sophie. Is not a coincidence. This is a reckoning. And while the league tried to pretend it's business as usual, the people who make up the soul, the WNBA, the players and fans are rising up, because this is bigger than Sophie Cunningham. It's bigger than Bria Hartley. It's bigger than any one game. This is about whether the WNBA is truly what it claims to be: a progressive player firstly built on empowerment and accountability, or if that is branding, because right now it's looking like branding. Let's go one layer deeper. How is this being covered? Oh, that's right. It's barely being covered at all. Mainstream sports media has been strangely quiet. No headline on ESPN front page, no live panel discussion on FS1, no breaking news segment about the lawsuit. Fans are demanding, which only adds fuel the fire, because WNBA has always fought for visibility for years. The media ignore the league, and now that it finally has a spotlight, they're letting dangerous plays happen in silence. That silence is complicit and fancy it, and they're filling the void themselves. TikTok, podcast, Twitter threads, call and live streams, articles, amateur investigations. It's digital activism on overdrive, and is working. Every time a video of a heartless elbow goes viral, every time someone eggs league with the hashtag sue the WNBA caption, every time a former player speaks up, momentum builds. And what happens when Sophie returns next season and says nothing's changed? What happens if another star player goes down with verbal injury? What happens when a lawsuit is the only thing the league can't ignore? Because that's what's coming next, a day of reckoning. Either the WNBA cleaned house now, or the fans, the players, and a legal system would do for them. And you know what? That might be exactly what it takes, because you can't say we protect our own while you let when your most beloved players be body slammed mid-game without so much as a foul. You can't say this league is the future while letting your officials treat like the Wild West. You can't preach sisterhood when Sophie Cunningham is out here suffering in silence. Embryo Hartley is still eligible to suit up the people who built this league. Players and fans are demanding something better. Not next season, not in some fatigue marketing cycle. Now fix the officiating, suspend violent players, fire incompetent ref, create a real player safety board. And if the WNBA won't do it, Sophie Cunningham's lawsuit just might force their hand, because when the fan become the lawyers, the verdict's already written. And here's the truly, while part this wasn't supposed to be the WNBA problem, this was supposed to be the golden era. The year the league finally crossed over sold-out arenas, record jersey sales, national media attention. All eye is on Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Sophie Cunningham, the new blood, bring the fire, and a veteran standing tall beside them. This was a moment, but instead of seizing it, the WNBA is on the verge of fun, a bag in way so colossal it might set the lead back years and in all spiral, because one player got hurt and no one stepped up. The injury to Sophie Cunningham should have been an inflection point, not a PR disaster. but has become exactly that because of the league refusal to accept responsibility. Let's not forget this isn't just a bad look, it's a workplace failure. Sophie wasn't injured in a freak accident. She was injured in a preventable situation. She was blindsided, elbowed, and dropped on national television by a player with a reputation, and the systems in place to protect her completely failed. Not just the referees who missed the call, not just the coaches who didn't challenge it, but entire league structure that allowed his and firemen to fester. When a fan's a man a lawsuit, what they're really demanding is accountability for systemic issue. They're asking the hard questions the league won't. Why does the WNBA allow repeat offenders like Bria Hartley to continue playing without stricter penalties? Why do ref miss obvious infraction game after game? Why is there no third-party review process for dangerous plays? Why does toughness in this league mean letting players club or for the sake of TV drama? And most importantly, why do players have to risk their health to get the league's attention? This is a kind of mess that other leagues fix immediately. You don't see NFL or NBA officials waiting until fan petitions hit 50,000 signatures to take action. You don't see players filing lawsuits because ref didn't feel like watching the ball. But in the WNBA, that's where we're at. And here's the real problem. The damage is already done. You can suspend Bria Hartley now. You can issue a state man. You can throw up a few social media posts where hashtag protect our players and a cute caption. But you can unbreak Sophie's ribs. You can on-sideline one of the most impactful players in Indiana rotation. You can't unburn the trust has been torched between league as most loyal fans, because fans feel but trade and betrayal is a different beast. And disappointment says do better next time. Betrayal says I don't trust you anymore. And once you lose trust, that's when fans stop showing up. That's when they stop watching. That's when they stop buying the jerseys. That's when they start believe in you. And let's talk about our ripple effects, because Sophie's absence doesn't just impact the Indiana Fever. It affects the entire landscape of the league. Indiana now loses enforcer, the energy player, the one who was afraid to throw herself into every screen, every rotation, every scuffle. And now that team is missing grit. That leaves Caitlin Clark even more isolated, the rookies even more vulnerable, in games that much more tense, because now every hard fouls and be seen to the lens of what happened to Sophie. Players will hesitate, tempers will rise, this might even fly, because of the league won't protect them. They'll start protecting themselves, and that's how you get an all-out war on the court. And don't think the other teams aren't paying attention. They're watching how the lead responds or doesn't and adjusting accordingly. You think coaches are privately saying be aggressive, be physical, they're not going to call it. You think players aren't quietly emboldened, seen at when the dirtiest hits of the season lead to no immediate action, because make no mistake, the Bria Hartley hit wasn't random. Players know how to send messages, they know how to rattle an opponent, they know when a hard foul turns into something more, and when they see that the league has no real consequences lined up, they push boundaries every time. It's basic sports psychology. If there's no fear penalty, then chaos becomes a strategy, and chaos is what we're heading toward. Because here's the next stage in the slow-burning disaster: retaliation. You think Sophie's teammates have let that slide. You think players from other teams who love Sophie, who train with her, came up with her by on it with her, I'm going to make a statement of their own. There's a reckoning brewing, and it's gonna explode the next time Bria Hartley steps on the court. And if the WNBA doesn't step in before that happens, there are more than just a lawsuit on their hands. They'll have a full-on crisis. Let's also acknowledge what this means for future players. The NCAA stars watching from the sidelines, the young women debating whether to go pro or take the overseas route. They're seeing all of this and thinking, wait, if I go to the WNBA, I can get buried on national TV. Mr. S season in. The league won't say a word. Yeah, real encouraging. And as much as the league loves to talk about growth and future investments and expansion, teams and new fan bases know that matters if the players don't feel safe, because without the players, you don't have a product, you don't have growth, you don't have anything. That's why fans are demanding a lawsuit. Not out of vengeance, but because they've seen enough to know that legal pressure might be the only thing left that the league can't ignore. Is not about getting even, it's about forcing reform. It's about creating a paper trail, about saying once and for all that players have rights. And of the league will enforce them internally, the courts will, and whether Sophie decide to file or not. The mere fact that fans are begging her to should be a wake-up call. Think about that. Fans are so disillusioned with the system that they're now encouraging their favorite player to sue the organization they love just to make things better. That's how broken this has become. And of the WNBA still doesn't act, then they're making a choice to prioritize PR over player safety, silence over accountability, and branding over the very athletes who are a brand. At that point, a lawsuit won't, as we deserved, it'll be inevitable. So the league has the option right now. They can do the bare minimum, slap Bria with the latest pension offer, vague comments about looking into our policies, wait for the backlash to fade, or they can face the fire. Only mistake, protect their players.